There is no end to matter, there is no end to grace. There is no end to spirit, there is no end to space. And so we walk with hope in hand towards Zion's promised land. Through every trial, through every test, we seek his peace, we find his rest. There is no end to Zion, no end to love's pure call. For those who seek his promise will find it all in all in all. There is no end to Zion, no end to love's pure call. For those who seek his promise we'll find her all in all in all.
When I touched the door, the spirit said, it's haunted. Like, that's it. I knew it was haunted, and let the roller coaster ride begin.
What's going on with the Capitol Theater? Like, why is that such a hot spot?
She said there was a man dressed in white, all white, and he was sitting beside you, and he was looking at you with a big smile on his face. And he had a bald head like you had, and he just watched you. She said, I thought it was weird because you didn't talk to each other. And I said, wow, somebody must have been watching me in that building.
Welcome into another special edition Kia David podcast. Thank you for joining Zion Media. We've got a fun episode for you guys today. I'm joined by my fearless companion, David the Lion Douglas. Shane is on an airplane flying back from North Carolina to Utah. He's been tending his flocks. Shane and I and David have families and jobs, and Zion Media is our little side project. And so we love it when we're all here, but we're going to keep cranking out content because we got a ton of cool people that are on our schedule and wanting to get in front of us. And we want to remind you guys that part of what we're trying to do as Zion Media with our contest that we have going on, the $1,000 contest for the best guest. And just to recap, that goes now until December 21st. We have a bunch of people that have already been on and a bunch of people in the pipeline that have come through that. And they're people that you guys have found and said, get this person on the podcast. And some of them are people that contacted us and said, I'd like to come on your podcast, not even caring about the $1,000, right? And that's how we met Dave here. Dave reached out and he said, I think you probably saw us talking about ghosts or different things. And he goes, I got a good ghost story for you. I was a sheriff, for Utah, something, Salt Lake County. And I was in the Capitol Theater and I saw a bunch of ghosts. And I was like, oh, I'm calling that guy. I remember when I got this message, Dave, I copied and pasted it to Shane and David. And I'm like, I'm calling this dude. I want to hear about this. So that's kind of how we connected, and you and I jumped on a phone call and you gave me maybe like an hour to hour and a half breakdown of what happened. And I kind of just want to go through that again. It's an interesting story. It's a funny story at parts. It's a creepy story. And the thing about a lot of ghost stories that I hear, it's one incident, maybe a couple, but this, you just had another after another after another after another that you kept telling me, and I thought like we were done with it, and then there was another one, and like it was just an ongoing experience while you were working there of supernatural ghosts is the best way that you could put it, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, my hands are sweating right now. If you could see how wet, like, that place was incredible. I'll say it was incredible. But the experience, and I'll start right from the beginning, we were in training, and we jump in the car with the sergeant, 2-3 other guys, and I take the front seat because I'm kind of the...
You're working for, at this time?
Salt Lake County Sheriff.
Salt Lake County Sheriff, okay.
And so the sergeant says, come on, you guys. He kind of goes like this. He says, just follow me and jump in the car. And my sergeant was a big man. Like, he was a big guy. I forget what his name is. It's 12, 13 years ago. But anyways, we're going down, I don't know which street it is, and we're coming up to the Capitol Theater, and he's pointing at it, and he's telling us, he's like, that place is haunted. And the guys in the back are kind of giggling with, okay, whatever. And I'm in the front, and I laughed, right? And he looked at me, and he took his eyes off the road, and he was mad. I mean, he was mad. He's like, no, that place is haunted. It's haunted. And I'm like, oh, guy, we believe you. You know what I mean? So just keep driving so we don't hit somebody. Anyways, once all my training and everything was done, he sticks me there. I'm like, all right. And it starts right from the get-go. Like my first day, there's parking, kind of like underground parking. And there's this doors where the semi-trucks will come in and unload props and stuff for Blaze. And I walk up to the main door, just a smaller door, and there's a camera up here, so the officer inside the building knows that you're there. And he comes up to the door, and I put my hand on the on the handle, and opened up the handle. And anyways, I got a tingling or a shock that went up my hand, up into the top of my head and down the back of my spine. And so that was the first incident. And as soon as that happened, I knew the place was haunted. It was.
So you go from mocking your sergeant to getting assigned to Siberia, essentially. They send you to the Capitol Theater. You're going in there with all these doubts, probably just kind of like mocking it. You touch the door, you get this electric shot, and you're like, oh, crap, it's haunted.
Right. Yeah. And it's interesting, too, because I've had experiences all my life. Like it I don't know, it runs in the family. My grandmother told me stories when she was alive, and my mom and my sister, who is she doesn't advertise it, but she is a medium, a psychic. And my younger brother, same thing. Like everybody has had these experiences, but that place, I didn't want it. Okay. I thought kind of he was joking. I was hoping he was joking, but when I touched the door, all right, I'm going to throw LDS in here. The spirit said it's haunted. Like, that's it. I knew it was haunted, and let the roller coaster ride begin. And so the officer that might FTL, the field training officer, he opens the door for me, and we go inside. And I don't tell nobody nothing because I don't want to lose my job. Yeah, I mean, that's a career killer. So anyways,
yeah, what would they have to do? Like internal affairs investigation, medical, psych eval, that kind of stuff?
Well, if you're brand new on the job, they'll just let you go.
Oh,
right?
Wow.
You're done because I guess they think you're schizo or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and again, I think you kind of asked me a question when you first talked to me, can I remember everything? It's like, I can have dementia. I'll never forget that place. I mean, there are areas in the building. Like I said, if I think about them, well, probably can't see my goosebumps. I'm covered in goosebumps because that place, there's good spirits and there's very evil spirits in the building.
Okay, so let's start off with the evil spirits, and then let's end with the good spirits to make us feel better.
Okay. Okay. After a couple of days of training, let's say my third day or so on the job, because nothing except for the shock that first day, I didn't feel anything else. Yeah. So the officer says, you want me to join you? I'm like, it's just not hard. I can do this, because you go to the top floor of the building and then you just work your way down. Just, you hit all the doors, all the stairwells. And so I'm on the third floor and I'm checking it, and I close all the lights, lock all the doors, and all that's really on is like emergency lights, right? Everything is dark. Then I go down to the second floor and I'm coming down. Everything is locked. All I have to do is look in one more room, and I call it the dance studio where they practice for their ballets and stuff like that. And it's a fairly large room with mirrors all around. So I just stick my head in like this, and I go to close the door. And as I shut the door, there's a slam behind me, like a door behind me. It slams so hard that the windows vibrate. on weather doors on that floor, and it's impossible because you're thinking there's no way. Like just imagine there's an explosion outside and the windows are all rattling, and I'm standing like here's the door, and I flip around. Now I'm facing out in the hall, and my heart's going a mile a minute, right? Because that scared the crap out of me. And the only door there is the men's room. And so I look left and right, and there's the exit right here to my right. Nobody, I mean, you'll hear the door, the breaker bar, whatever, you would hear the door open, nothing. It's got to be the men's room door. So I get on the radio, and I forget the fellow's name. I says, hey, is there anybody up here with me? And he says, what's going on? So I tell him. So he comes running up. He's like, don't move. I'm on my way. So he comes up as fast as he can. Like he's almost in the basement, the other side of the building. And because if there's anybody in the building and he didn't catch it on the camera, then somebody's hiding in the building, and it could be life threatening, right? Because there's a lot of homeless folks. I'm not saying the homeless people are bad, but if they're hiding in the building for a reason. So he comes up, and the both of us take out our guns, and then now we start sweeping the bathrooms, right? So we're kicking open the stall doors and walk into the bathroom. I'll never forget this. On the here is a picture. What's his name? Chris Farley. So there's a picture on the wall, and I just look at it and go, like I laugh, right? Because he's in a tutu, like real. Anyways, I love the guy. He was great. And so we go right, and this is, we start kicking the stall doors open. We're saying, sheriff's department, show us your hands, kind of a thing. And then there's another, it's a just small little hall in the bathroom where they could stand and put makeup on. And we get hit with a blast of cold air, like Paranormal. Okay. It just hits us, and my teeth start chattering. And like something saying, get out of there, like get out. So we go out in the hall because there's nobody there. When we holster, and now he was getting on my nerves because he's like, did you even hear something or what, did something happen? And I'm like, I know what I heard. He said, let's go to the third floor and let's just search the whole building, make sure there's nobody here. And we get to the top of the third floor. We open the door. Every door is open. Every light is on. There's nobody in the building. So he looked at me.
And you just cleared it too, right?
Yeah. I locked everything. Like, there's a lot of doors in there you got to lock in. And I looked at him and I said, I locked everything. I said, because I wanted to say, don't call me a liar. Don't say I didn't do my job, right?
Right.
I said, third day on the job, I'm not going to lie to you. So we're up there and we lock it all down. And the rest of the night, me and him really didn't say a whole lot. The reason he didn't say a whole lot to me is because he had experienced so much paranormal stuff in that building that he didn't know what to say. And that's kind of what he told me. Like, I just didn't know how to open up to you because I don't want you to think I was crazy. And I don't want anybody on the outside to know we are crazy. So it's, so that was my real first, encounter.
Third day on the job, and you have that first encounter. Okay. Think of it. There's one that I remember you talking about that was like a lady or something that you saw.
She was more towards the end of my time there, probably around the third or maybe the fourth month I was there.
Okay.
So I'm on my phone and I'm talking to my friend Greg. And Greg, I'll get my friend was a medium, like a psychic. He doesn't tell people his gift, but my friend he came there, and like I said, I'll get to that in a minute. But I'm on the phone, and as I'm talking to him, okay, so I'm like, I'll explain. This would be the door to the outside alley where guys would go out and have a smoke or go for a walk. Over here is a set of stairs that goes into the basement that they call the catacombs for obvious reasons. And right over here is the door that goes out to the stage. And so, yeah, let me turn this off. So can you guys still hear me?
Yeah. I just put you on full screen.
Okay. So over here is the door to the stage. So I've got my feet up on the desk and I'm talking to Greg, and out of the corner eye, I see movement. So I look over and here's this beautiful woman, rough, early 20s, wavy hair down to here, very slender, again, very pretty. She had on a turn-of-the-century dress that had the frills around the neck, the frills on the wrist, the frill on the bottom of her dress. She had lace-up booties. I mean, I saw right through her. So I saw through her. I saw the exit door leading off the stage going outside. I just saw right through her, but she walked, just walked. And her hair was moving like there was a light breeze blowing. And I could remember hearing my friend Greg say, "Dave, are you okay?" And he kept saying, he said, he says, "You're talking about your bishop." I says, "Greg, I just saw a ghost." And he's laughing because, again, he's had that for many years. And he's like, "Yeah, I believe you." I says, "No, you don't understand. I just saw a ghost." And again, he's still laughing and says, "Dave, I believe you." I'm going to leave out the profanity because I'm so wound up at what I just saw. But I said, "Greg, I just saw a blankety blank ghost." He says, "Dave, I know," because he probably seen her when I had brought him to the Capitol Theater. But I was more in shock than I was terrified, if that makes sense. Because up to that point, I knew when the spirits were evil and I knew when the spirits were good, when they were playful, or because I had, at some point I asked Greg, I says, "Why are they here?" And he said, "Just because you're dead doesn't mean you don't stop enjoying the things you enjoyed when you were on the earth." She probably enjoyed the theater. But like I said, I watched her legs move. And so that one, like I said, I'll never forget it. That's all I could say. I will never forget the woman. Her dress was white with like little blue lines in it. Like I said,
I think you could draw her if you had a chance.
if I was an artist, yeah. And I saw her just like from the side, right, as she's walking. But what do we got here?
Okay, I've got a video queued up, and people, I didn't know this in talking to Dave, but he goes, "Yeah, like Discovery Channel did an episode on this," and I was like, "What?" And I went and Googled and found it. This is a little part of it, I believe. So we're just going to watch this real quick, and then maybe this will bring up some other questions to keep.
Okay, so we want to play this video about the Capitol Theater with our guest David Murphy, but the problem is that it's copyrighted. So we're gonna have to skip this part and actually encourage you after the video to go to the description below and watch this video. There's actually another famous YouTuber that covers basically horror stories and all sorts of strange and mysterious videos, and you can actually be able to see his video or his telling of the story here, and that is also going to be linked in the description below. The cool thing about both of these is that it's actually about a member of the church who had the Holy Ghost with him to not only protect them but to guide them. Basically, it wasn't just one officer that was a Latter-day Saint, but there were multiple officers that were Latter-day Saints. So this is a really cool story. Take a look at it after finishing this podcast.
Well, that
Bring back memories.
oh my, that night was incredible because I invited my friend Greg, but I didn't tell him what I'm seeing. I didn't tell him any story. Greg loved to play the organ. And I said, Greg, I said, there's a big white organ that the church donated to these guys, I don't know, 100 years ago. I says, you want to come and see it? I said, I'll make sure there's nobody in the building. So me and Officer Morgan, we're in the control room, and we see Greg pull in. And I said, yeah, come on in, Greg. We're on the phone. He says, yeah, just come to the back door, the door that gave me the shock. And we're watching Greg. He puts his hand on the door, and he drops his hand, and he doesn't open the door. He's just standing there. And Morgan says, what's wrong with your friend? And I said, something's talking to him. Sure enough, Greg, he had a little bag of like a burger from Burger King, whatever. I said, over here, Greg. So he comes down, and he takes a seat and doesn't say nothing. Puts his bag on the floor, opens it up, and starts eating the chips. And he's got his one foot against the wall, and he's leaning back, and he's looking at me like, is this guy nuts? And Greg says, you didn't tell me this place was haunted, Dave. I started to laugh. I said, Greg, would you have come if I told you it was haunted? And he's like, yeah, probably not. And I says, okay, I'm sorry, Greg, but this place is haunted and we need answers. So we let him finish. And then we went down that set of stairs to the basement known as the catacombs. And we take a left, and we're starting down one of the major hallways. And that's when we see the door handle, or the door slammed with such force. And the other thing too, with slamming with force, that first episode that I had, I think I was telling you, those hinges they're like hydraulic hinges, and those doors weigh a ton. They're fire rated. So when I was upstairs, so I'm going to jump back to the first incident. When I was upstairs, I pushed with all my weight on that door, and those hinges stop. So you don't cut somebody's fingers off because they're so heavy. There's no way you can slam the door. So what slammed the door? Same thing downstairs, right? Slammed, but those don't have hinges on them. They're just dressing room doors. And so, Morgan and I, we put our hands on our gun, and Greg's in the front. And as we approach the door, the handle goes like rattles with such force, like rattles. Anyways, Morgan grabs, we're trying to open it, won't open. I think he took out a key, and he opens the door. Same thing, right? Sheriff's Department, show us your hands. And we hear Greg out in the hall laughing. He said, guys, the spirit is jumping through the walls like it's running away from you. But that was a bad spirit, because like I said, I could walk in the building and I could feel, is it a good spirit or if it's an evil spirit? And it wasn't a good spirit. So as we're walking, that's what Greg says. He's like, I can smell smoke. I never smelled smoke up until that night. And I was telling Trevor, when we were in training, right, dispatch had they came in and taught one of the classes, and they said, all right, you're going to work in the Capitol Theater. And when you smell smoke, don't call us. Don't get on the radio and say there's a fire. Just don't do it. And we're like, well, why? Because they didn't tell us at that time, right? It was haunted. So does it make any sense if we smell smoke? And they said, don't call in, don't get on your cell phone and call the fire department. Don't worry about it. So that night, Greg says, right, he smells the smoke, and there's a room underneath the stage. We walk in, we look around, and Greg's hitting on things that I found out later had happened in that area. And Greg says, I'm going to tell you, he looks at us and says, I'm going to tell you, don't ever come in this room again. I'm coming alone. All right. I don't care who was hiding in there. The rest of my time I was there, I never went in that room. Case closed. So as we're walking that night, we're coming around a corner, and there's a little area where there's some couches and the pop machines, and, you get snacks in that. And Greg said, hey, I see you over there. And so Morgan, you would think by now Morgan would start to believe that Greg's got a gift. And he's like, is your friend nuts? And I said, just watch. And so Greg starts talking to him. He's like, I'm not afraid of you. Greg found out who the kid was. Nobody knew that was the kid that died in the fire, like back in the 40s. So Greg.
Oh, wow. I was going to share that really quick.
I can just keep your show.
Can you guys?
So,
Yep.
so just for clarification,
1940, July 4th, 1949, a fire in Capitol Theater claimed the life of Richard L. Duffin.
Right.
I wonder if that's who it was.
That's who it was. But Greg, when he was telling us this, he said his name was Patrick Duffin. Right. Interesting, though, because there's an old boy that used to work in the theater who was there. He was a young man at the time. And he said, yeah, he went by Patrick Duffin. He said, how did you know that? So, like I said, little tidbits that we were able to put together. Yeah, he's talking to the guy. We're standing behind because Greg, he was hiding. Don't ask me why ghosts hide. He's hiding, crouched down. Here's the soda machine, and there's just a little space by the wall. Because I watched Greg walk over, and he did one of these. He's like, I could see. Stop hiding. I'm not afraid of you. Who are you? And so this, to Greg. Anyways, like still, Morgan he's having his doubt, even though we just had that encounter with the slamming door and the handle, and that's the other thing too. Sorry guys, it's like 12 watt years. So as that's going, the door's going bang, 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 like somebody's punching it on the other side. It's amazing. That's all I gotta say. It's amazing. Like I said, I'm getting the goosebumps. But that night,
so for people that missed that, the video that we just watched, not only does it look familiar to him, he was the one who told all the editors everything to film it. Like the History Channel or Discovery or whatever came out. Two of these guys took all of their stories. It was his story. He's one of those three guys in it. He's just younger because I think that was from like 2000 and I don't know when this was.
Maybe 210, something like that, 211, 12, something like that.
Okay, yeah, 14 years ago. So, yeah. Okay. Is there, like, you were there for 4 months, is that right?
Yeah, 4 months. And
how many times happened? Was this like 2 times a week, once a week, every couple months? Like, how often was stuff happening?
Every other night. The only time I found peace is when I blessed the building. And there were a number of nights, and to your viewers, let me put something into your head. Imagine you're at a place that's so terrifying that you want to get out, but you can't because it's part of your job. Or just picture yourself, you're at some place, you can't leave, but you're terrified. When I would bless the building, raise the hand through the square and everything, I could go downstairs in the catacomb, in the darkest room, shut off the lights, lay on the couch and have a nap, and nothing would bother me. And so, did I do that every night? No. Because some nights I would go to work, my nerves would be shot, but other nights I had to bless the building. And the reason I started blessing the building is Greg said, Dave, he said, they don't like you. He said, I don't know why. They hate you. And I've had that all my life. I've had that kind of stuff happen, right? This was just, like I said, this was a 4-month long, I would get home at night and thank goodness I didn't drink, right? I'd be a full-blown alcoholic. But I was taking Xanax because I do have anxiety. And used to have it bad. Anxiety and panic attacks. And I would get home and I'd be like this. Like my nerves were so shot. And my daughter, you met here, she has a gift as well. She doesn't like to admit it, but she sees them on an occasion. I came home one night and I lived in Lehigh and I'm sitting on my deck and my legs are swinging. I can't go in the house, like, because my wife would ask me how my day was and I would blow up, right? I was a ball of nerves. And so I'm sitting out there and I remember exactly what I was doing. I had my hands pushed down on the deck and I was just swinging my legs. And my daughter comes out and says, Dad, who's sitting beside you? I'm like, what are you talking about, right? Like, I'm cranky because it was a bad day. She said, well, who's that man sitting beside you? And I thought she was making fun of me, right? So I said, go back in the house and leave me alone. I blew up at her.
And how old was your daughter at this point?
14, 15?
Okay, teenager.
Probably about 15 would be about right. Anyways, I'm sitting there and I got chastised by the spirit, right? So I remember everything. The spirit said, go and apologize to your daughter. She did see something. Go ask her. So I went in and I apologized. And I said, look, I don't want to ask you tonight, but I said, you tell me tomorrow what you saw. So we were outside on the deck. And she told me, she said, Dad, she said, there was a man dressed in white, all white. And he was sitting beside you and he was looking at you with a big smile on his face. And he had a bald head like you had. And he just watched you. She said, I thought it was weird because you didn't talk to each other. And I said, wow, somebody must have been watching me in that building. So, yeah, there's an occasion that I would have to have a prayer before entering the house because I didn't want these spirits to follow me. And I think I told you, Trevor, Greg came back when Officer Thomas was there. So Morgan had moved on, and Thomas was the other officer there. And he was having his episodes really bad. So I said, I'm going to invite a friend, and I says, he's going to help you. And so Greg comes that night, and that was the night I smelled the smoke. I'm walking in the auditorium, and I says, guys, do you smell that? And I look back, and they're doing their thing. It smells like the morning after campfire, you know, when the fire's been put out, but it has that, you know, that and strong, like strong. And I told Greg, I says, I'm smelling smoke. He's like, yeah, he said, there's a lot of spirits in here tonight. And so there's a first floor, a second, and a third floor. Between the first floor and the second floor, I don't even know what the floor is called. It's just a small area where people can sit and overlook the foyer. And so
it's a rotunda. Yeah, I know exactly where you're talking about. Yeah.
And so I started having a prayer, and I call it my temple moment. Like when you're in the temple and you have a very spiritual movement. And I praying, and I start crying like a baby. And I don't cry in front of other guys, not often. Well, you might have saw me in church on Sunday, but anyway. I start weeping, and I tell this kid, Patrick, I said, look, Pat, I said, your mom and dad are waiting for you. Your brothers, everybody, obviously they're all gone because it's been almost 80 or so years later, or 70-something years later. I says, go home. And so I thought it was over with Patrick. That night, I'm driving home, and I'm going to Lehigh, past the point of the mountain, the prison, and I happen to look to my right, and he's sitting beside me. And yeah, I'm speechless. And he's just sitting there like, you know, like you would take a kid on a joyride, right? And you're just sitting there looking ahead. And I said, Patrick, I said, you're not coming home with me. I said, it's time to go home. Go home to your Heavenly Father. He was gone. I never saw him again at the theater after that.
Wow.
And so, like I said, bringing Greg to the theater, it just opened everybody's eyes as to what we were seeing. Because the night with Thomas, like I said, I'm going to do a little jumping around. The three of us are standing on the stage, and we all have the priesthood. And Greg says, Dave, what do you see? So I'm looking out where all the seats are, and up on the second tier where the projection room and all that is, I describe them as, remember the movie Ghost with Patrick Swayze? Those things that come and drag that guy away.
Yeah.
I see similar spirits like that. They're oozing. They're oozing off the railings and just bloop, bloop, and massing on the floor and coming towards us. And so I says, I want to go, Greg. And he's like, what do you see, Dave? So I tell him what I see. And he's like, if you don't stand up to them now, he says, you're not going to be able to work here anymore. And I'm terrified. Anyways, Greg says, raise your square. And that's kind of when the blessing, when I thought to myself, yeah.
That's wild.
Do my job. Yeah. And he does. We have a prayer. And Greg says, do you hear that? And I says, Greg, I don't hear nothing. And he says to me, they're being dragged out by good spirits. So he says, and like forced, they're being forced out of the building. So that's why I said there are good spirits in there, like the young lady I saw. And then there are the very evil ones. And they have great power. And I'm going to tie it in. I want everybody to know I'm not Joseph Smith. I am a guy who knows what he went through when he went to the grove and couldn't talk. When that Satan stopped him from uttering words. I had the same thing when I was on the stage, and I'm telling a guy, another officer, what I have been seeing. And as I am talking to this officer, this is what I hear and feel. That hard, something hit me in the chest. And so I'm going, and I can't talk. Like, I cannot say a word. And he's looking at me. He's like, are you okay? Because I was just telling him about that. Also, my wife and I had a great day at the temple doing work for her relatives. So I said, man, it was a great day for us. But then it hit me. Shut me right up. And he looks at me because he took me back into the officer's room because he said I started to panic, which I probably did. He said, I thought you were going into shock. So I told him, I says, no, I won't swear again, but I said, crap, that was weird. I said, I don't know what happened. He's like, I don't know. He says, 1 minute you're talking about the temple. And the next he said, I was going like this. I wasn't choking. I couldn't talk anymore. And so, yeah. It's
Well, tongue-tied. I mean, it's almost like that part on the Matrix where Neo's mouth is like completely grown over and he can't say anything.
right. It's similar. I couldn't say nothing. I'm gonna tie a quick something else that happened to me when I came back into the church. It was like 1981 or thereabouts, and I'm in my room. And 2 weeks prior to an event, the missionaries are coming over and they're teaching me the gospel. But I'm hearing what sounds like hordes of people screaming and like they're in agony. And it's nerve-wracking. And I'm hearing this. Well, this night I heard a female scream like she was being murdered. I thought it was my mom. I run up the stairs and there she is and Dad, and they're in the living room watching TV. I said, you okay, Ma? And she looks at me. I'm like, I'm fine. And the old man looks at me like I'm crazy. He's like, go downstairs. I said, well, I just heard a woman scream. I thought it was you. And Mom says, no. Sorry. So I went back downstairs. It's an older home. And I walked past. They had tiny little windows in the house, not very big. I mean, now I probably couldn't even get my leg through it, but just these itty bitty little windows. And I see a demonic face in the window. So I stop and I look back. Of course, there's nothing there, right? But I'm like, oh, okay. I imagined it. So I went in my room and I laid on the bed. Now I remember this is January in Canada, how cold it is there. And I got a book. I'm laying down. I got a book on my gut and I'm studying. And then I feel a cold again come over me. I lay the book down because I thought the window was open. So I lay the book down and here's a cloaked being standing at the foot of the bed. I can't see its face. I can't see the hands, but it's standing there like this, like arms are holding up where arms should be and nothing here. But I felt hate. Whoever this thing was hated me and let me know how much it hated me. Didn't say a word, but I couldn't talk.
How old were you at the time?
21.
We just
20?
had we just had a podcast right before this, and this guy told us a very, very similar story when he was 5 years old. His mom was out cooking in the kitchen, and he looked in the doorway, and there was this guy in total black. Couldn't see through him, couldn't see his face. He perceived that he had a cape and a top hat on, but he wasn't quite sure. And he said he was just staring at him. He couldn't see his face or anything, and he knew that exact same thing in his gut, that this person hated them.
Yeah. And I felt that hate.
That's
that
me.
this, yeah. And I was just learning how to pray at that time. Again, when these things happen, you don't forget them. So I remember saying, oh, Jesus, please, Jesus, help me. And then it left. And then when it was gone, like I took off out of the room. But again, like I said, that was like 42, 43 or so years ago when that happened. But every once in a while, I have these visitations. But at the theater was crazy. Like,
so I'm guessing you've kind of gone through this, and let me run through my hypothesis. If I was you, I would say, okay, there's certain people that are closer to the veil or whatever their spiritual gifts are, that they have more interactions. And it sounds like it runs in your family, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your friend that you brought, clearly the force is strong in him, right?
right.
And I'd have to imagine it probably runs in his family too. Typically, these things do run in families. So
like that.
Yeah, I've heard of tons and tons of stories, watched videos on it. It's very common. So then the next thought is, what's going on with the Capitol Theater? Like, why is that such a hot spot? Because you've had these things intermittently through your life, but that was like a hot spot. So much so that you dreaded going there. You're popping Xanax. You have to decompress at home. Like, why? Why the Capitol Theater? Like, why not another building? I'm sure there's a bunch of buildings that have burned down in Salt Lake. What was the vacuum there? Do you think it was a geographical location? Like, there's something special about that plot of land? Is it the building? Is it the opera house and the arts? Like, I'm sure you've thought about it.
Well, Greg said something to the effect that there's a portal. There's something there. Then, because there's a restaurant.
We love portals. Just, on this show, we love portals.
Right? Well, have you heard of the restaurant, the Blue Iguana?
Yeah. Red and Blue Iguana.
Yeah. Well, the Blue Iguana it's almost attached to the theater. You just go around the back, go down some stairs, and there it is. You go ask the people that work there what they've seen over the years. It's just one after the other. Because I wanted to know, again, what is with this place? And when I went over there and talked to people, they don't even like being there alone at night. Like, they will not lock it up alone. There'll be 2 or 3 of them because a woman appears, a pretty woman, and she appears and scares the living bejeepers out of them. But see, that's the thing is, you could see these people. Let the spirit tell you. You don't have to be afraid of this person. But the spirit will also warn you, it's time for you to get out of there. Like, go somewhere else. Or raise your hand to the square and remove these. Because it's interesting. After I left, there was a night where I called Thomas, right? Because we're not allowed to use the radio. He can't say, I got an intruder in the building. I can't find him. You can't do that. So I just
have a ghost in the basement. Come help me.
So I'm on the phone. No word of a lie. I say, have you seen any ghosts, Thomas? I'm scaring him. He's not even talking to me now. I hear him like, police or sheriff's department, show me your hands. Now I'm like, oh boy. I said, you okay, Thomas? Is there somebody there? He says, Dave, he said, the elevator just came up, because I heard the elevator, it makes a racket. And when it stops on your floor, it goes, bing. You could hear that. That's the other thing I noticed in the theater too. When I'd be working, I'd hear that thing go up and down all night long and nobody in the building. You have to manually press the button. So Thomas says, he said, yeah, Murph, there's somebody here. And I was in the patrol car, so I whip over, park in the front, and he meets me at the front. And Thomas is a big guy. I mean, he's a 6'2" or 6'4", like white. And I says, "You okay?" And he's like, "There's something."
I'm going to say we've been having technical issues this whole time. And I feel like, no, we cut out a little bit, but you guys both.
Yeah, that was the first time. That's the first time I had him cut out completely.
I could tell.
Let's have you restart.
It's interesting when I don't know. We can blame.
Say it, David.
What's that?
Where we want you to start is go to the part where he's 6'4", tough, and he's stark white. He's scared. There's someone there. Start there. Cowabunga.
Right. So I said, all right, let's check the building, right? Because that's protocol. So if you've been in the theater, there's a set of stairs that go up both sides to that funny floor, then onto the second and onto the third. And as we're going up the stairs, and he's behind me, and I can hear him say, and he's whispering, say, "Murphy, look in the mirror," because there's mirrors on the side. And I'm like, no. I didn't tell him, right? But I'm like, I can't afford to see anymore because my nerves are down. I can't stand that place. And so he starts describing what he sees, and it's this deformed demonic thing staring at him like it's going to come through the mirror at him. And I says, "Thomas, I believe you," but I said, "Let's go check the building." So we start climbing, and we're searching, and we didn't find anything in the building, but then we're in the auditorium, and we're walking down towards the stage. And Thomas gets up on the stage to look back at the seating, and I'm looking straight ahead, like the stage is like way up here, and I'm kind of like down here. And he's a big man, and he screams like a girl, like a little girl in a playground. And I, like something said, "Don't turn around. Don't turn around." And I didn't. And I says, "You saw something, Thomas?" So again, I'll describe what he saw. Raiders of the Lost Ark, when they get tied to that pole at the end of the first movie, and those demons are circling them, he said that's what he saw. But he only saw half of it, and he said it stood right behind me. And that's why I'm like, I'm glad I listened to the voice and the spirit. Don't turn around. He sees it twice. As he's describing it, he saw it again, except this time it's making itself more, it's showing itself more to him, right? So now he sees 3/4 of this thing. Still, it's standing behind me. And I'm like, so we go back to the officer's room. I stay the rest of the night because this poor guy is, well, I'm not going to say my nerves weren't shot, but I didn't have to see it. But a lot of stuff happened to Thomas, and a lot of stuff happened to me. And it's ironic how I'm in the car the night he has an incident where I'm on the phone with him, and he's saying, what's going on there. I can only describe it. The stage area, I think, has like a 25 foot room, right, to the ceiling for all these props and everything. It sounds like somebody dropped a bag of nuts and bolts from the top. They hit the floor, exploded, and you can hear them. Just imagine them spraying everywhere, right? All over the floor. Yeah. So anyways, did he hear the noise? I don't know. He came running though in the car, right? He comes running over, and he says, don't go out there till I get there. He's only 5 minutes away. So he parks, runs down the alley. Again, we take the guns out. I go left. He goes right. And then I can hear him, like we're searching. There's nothing on the stage. The plays are all done for the year. I don't even think there was a dust bunny. I mean, it's that clean. but there's nothing on the floors. And I can hear him say, "What did you say?" And I turn around and says, "What?" He said, "You just said something to me." I says, "I can barely hear you, Thomas." He said, "You just whispered in my ear." And I said, "Thomas," because we're 30 yards apart, like we are a long ways apart. And I said, "Thomas, think about it for a minute." I said, "How can I hear or whisper to you when I said, when you and I are almost screaming at each other to hear what, what we're saying?" He said, "Something just talked to me." And I said, "All right, you just had your first ghost encounter." So it was, yeah. And it's interesting that most of the guys that had things happen to them had the priesthood. I mean, that's just food for thought. There are those, that didn't have the priesthood who never saw nothing. Because I had officers tell me I made this up, right? Like, you just made this up. And I would say to them, "What do I have to gain?" I says, "I have a career to lose." I said, "So why would I make up such a ridiculous, these stories?" Some of them didn't believe me. I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, seriously. Well, there's zero gain.
right.
And, I can tell, obviously, just in talking to you both over the phone and doing this video, like, you get, like, emotionally charged. And, like, a couple of times I've heard you, like, clear your throat. I know exactly what's going on. You're, like, reliving it. And it still bugs you.
Well, if you notice too, I'm not even looking at you guys when I'm telling the story, because I'm back there. Like, I put myself like on the stage when Thomas heard the spirit, right? Like I said, I knew where I was. I knew where he was standing. I had my gun out. We're searching the stage. Got a flashlight. We're looking. I put myself back in that situation, because I'm trying to share this with you guys as best I can. Because after the show was on Paranormal Witness, is where the show was. And I read a comment in the local newspaper saying, "Yeah, I'd make up a story like that too if I was being paid what they're being paid." Well, whoever that guy was made me so angry, because I got back. I said to him, how much money do you honestly think I made when I did that show? I gave them a minimum of 40 hours of my time, and I got $200. I says, "Break that down and tell me how much money you think you made." Right? That was it. So, anyways.
Yeah. Hey, why don't you admit to everybody how much we had to pay to get you to come on Zion Media?
Right. Well, I stumbled upon you guys' stuff. And I'm like, I like these guys. I enjoy
zero. Yeah.
I'm not getting, folks, I'm not making any money. I mean, I wrote a book about my experience and the other officers, but I just never published it. So if I really wanted to make some money, I would have put the book out. I'm like, maybe I'll give it.
Hey, listen, if you still have it in digital form, Zion Media is launching a website around Thanksgiving, and we're going to have a publishing section where people can put their digital books. They can put it for $2, $5, $199, whatever they want. And there's one way that you could. But hey, listen, I appreciate you coming on, Dave. It's been awesome to hear it again. I can't believe how many of the details that I forgot. And there's 3 or 4 other ones that you told me that you didn't tell here. And if it happened every other day, you must have just story after story after story. So thanks for coming on, telling that story, entertaining us. It was very, very fun to have you on. And I told you this, my grandma worked in the Capitol Theater in the Utah Opera Company for 20 some odd years. And so as a kid, I've gone to operas and plays there probably 30, 40 times. I'm very, very familiar with the building. As you're explaining it, I know exactly where you are. I'm seeing it. So this was sentimental to me in that regards too. So it was a fun conversation. And now I'm deeply interested in the Blue Iguana. And next time I'm in downtown Salt Lake, I'm going to eat there. I speak Spanish. I'm going to talk to the people in the basement. So that'd be fun. So couple of these. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, the Spanish folks, there's a lot of Spanish that work in that restaurant, and they are the ones usually, there's one story where the couple are sitting at a table and half an apparition just approaches them, like just standing there looking at them eat. They got up, boom, ran up the stairs because the guy was saying, didn't pay or nothing. I'm like, I wouldn't pay either if half an apparition, but it's usually a woman. It's usually that I see in the building. But again, I don't know. I haven't been down there for 12, 13, 14 years, so it's been a while.
All right. Well, I get a blue iguana smothered burrito, and I'll return and report if I hear any good stories. I can investigate a little bit.
Right.
But yeah, thank you for coming on. I want to encourage all of you guys, if you haven't already, to like this video and the typical subscribe. We see our stats from YouTube, and even though we just hit 11,000 subscribers in 5 months or so, 63% of our viewers are not subscribed. So just click subscribe. If you don't like the video, you can still skip it, right? But being subscribed helps us out. We greatly appreciate it. We also have a Discord server, and it's in our button. If you click on our name or our logo, and then you click on Linktree, it'll open up a page to get you to Discord. It also opens up a page that you can do a contact us. Our Komora archive is in there, where we have a whole bunch of great books. Whole bunch of books. It's like the bottom of the internet. Good luck finding these books on your own. Good stuff. And we want you guys to join our Discord server, because it's a way that we can connect with you guys. You can send me a direct message, right? In the chat, it's difficult. You don't want to put your email and phone number. And we have a whole bunch of channels. We've got a Latter-day meme channel where people are making funny memes, and we gave away $50 to the best meme in October. And it's just another way to connect with you guys on a deeper level, and for you guys to find each other, right? So join our Discord server. And we're excited. I want to put it out in the atmosphere that December 21st of this year, which is the winter solstice, we're going to be doing an event similar to like an Adam on Diamond event. And it's going to be Christmas themed, Joseph Smith themed, because it's around his birthday. We're looking for a venue right now that'll hold 500 to 1,000 people. It's going to be completely free. And we're shooting for a smaller event the day before with some food and some socializing and stuff like that. December 21st in Salt Lake City. And we're considering anywhere between Davis County and Salt Lake County. And if you guys have any recommendations, or if you got a hookup or a free venue for us, please let us know. In our Discord server, there's a channel that's been created where you guys can get together and help us plan and participate. And so lots more to come on that. So for myself, David the Lion Douglas, and everybody out there in TV land, thank you for tuning into the Kia David podcast on Zion Media, and we will see you guys next time. We are rolling out something fun to get our community involved, and we are going to be giving away $1,000 American, clarify, $1,000 cash to the Zion Media fan subscriber that recommends the best guest, like a future Lance, a future Alex Boyer. We're looking for somebody that is, faith-based, or they could be a sports figure, politics, culture, anyone that you guys think, I want that person on Zion Media. Or if you're watching this yourself and you're being like, I want to be on Zion Media, you could win yourself $1,000. What we're going to do is, over the next 100 days, we are going to open up our link tree, and there's going to be a Google form if you go in there, and it's going to be a place where you can click on it. You can go in there and fill out your information. You can fill out information on who the guest is, why you think they would be a great guest for Zion Media. And then we want you to either take out your phone and record yourself and give us a little explanation of why this person would be perfect for Zion Media as a guest, or do an audio. That we don't need a video, but we just want to hear it more. You know, it's a lot easier to perceive what your intention is versus just clickety-clicking on that. So how it's going to work is we're going to filter those in. We're going to go through them, scrub them, the ones that we like. We're going to reach out, contact, do a little pre-interview, see if they're podcast worthy, and then we're going to platform them. We're going to put them on the show. And as we put these on, once we get 2 or 3 people on, we're going to open our socials up for voting, where you as the fans are going to help us determine who is the best guest. Over the course of the 100 days, whoever is voted in as the best guest, it's kind of a 50-50 criteria. We believe it. And then the votes will determine who the winner is for the $1,000. And 100 days from now, before December 21st, we're going to get that $1,000 out. Someone will have some Christmas spending cash or some personal cash. So
Trevor, quick question. If I recommend, you guys should have Sylvester Stallone on your program, they need to introduce us to Sylvester Stallone.
You got to be able to
just recommend somebody, and then it's like, not only do you recommend either yourself or somebody else, you got to bring them to the table.
Yep, you got to be the connector in chief.
If they know Tucker Carlson or someone big or like Elon Musk, they'd have to give us their number. Right.
Well, not only just give us their number, we don't want to call and be like, "Hey, David, give me your number." They need to make the connection. They need to help platform them.
Put us on a text thread. Put us on an email thread. You've got to be the connector in order to qualify.
Exactly.